Hey, you alright? Welcome to another video. If you haven't been here before, I'm Cecilia Jo and this is my channel where I talk all things books. So today I'm going to go through the books that I read in September. So I actually managed to read 19 books this month, which is so good for me. I think last month I read 10, something like that, and my goal this month was 15, so I've read 19, which I'm very happy about. I'm definitely still going to try and set my goal next month to be 20 and see if I can reach it. But yeah, this month I read 19, so I just thought I would go through them, my thoughts, my opinions and my ratings. So the first book that I read this month was actually on my Kindle and it was called Free Me. So it was the fourth one, I think, in a series, and it's a reverse harem, why choose, and a sort of brothers, like the four lads in the reverse harem are all brothers, which I felt like whilst I was reading it, I don't know, now I think if I started the series I would be a bit like, I don't really want to read that, but when I first read it, it didn't really bother me that much. But anyway, yeah, it was the fourth one in the series, so it follows Shiloh, who is the girl, and then you've got Knox, Keelan, Colt and Creed. Colt and Creed are also twins, and basically she is in witness protection because Mr. X, who is like the villain in this, killed her whole family, and she was there and he tortured her as well, but she managed to get away and she ends up moving next door. She's in witness protection, she's changed her surname, a whole like life has been taken off the system, things like that, and she's moved next door to these four lads. And it kind of just follows their story, like from hiding from Mr. X, from what happened. Obviously she's really traumatized from it, and it just follows their story basically. I think this series overall, it's a really easy series to read. It's just like really fast paced. I'm pretty sure it's all on Kindle Unlimited, and yeah, it's just really easy to get through, flows really well. There is a lot of stuff going on, so I definitely say check the trigger warnings for this one before you start reading it, because there is like a lot happening. But yeah, for the last book, I'd say it was a really good conclusion to the story. I'd give it 4 stars. I think overall I'd probably give the series a 4, because like I say, it's just really quick, easy to read, and but the actual storyline is really good too. Like, you want to know why Mr. X has like chose her, why he killed the whole family, is he gonna find them, are they gonna have to go on the run, you know, there's like so many different questions. So yeah, I definitely recommend it. I think it's a really good series, but 100% check the trigger warnings for it. And then next up we have got Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. So this book, I don't know if I actually have spoken about this already, I don't think I have, but this book I really enjoyed it, but I listened to it on audio first and I just couldn't get into it on audio. I think there was just so much going on, I just couldn't concentrate on it, and I think maybe I was about a quarter way through and I decided to read it instead, and it's so much better to read than it is on audio. I would say there's a lot going on, like there's a lot of names, like a lot of like politics, all different sort of, there's like the Shadowborn, there's the Legendborn, then there's like the witches, there's like mediums, and then there's just the humans. There's a lot of like politics, just a lot going on, so it can be quite confusing. But once you sort of get past that and you sort of know who's who and you get used to the names, it's really enjoyable. I really loved this book. I'm going to give it a 4.25. So it follows Bree, and she starts college and learns about like the magic and the whole different world with like monsters and creatures and powerful people that she didn't know anything about. She just thought she was starting like regular college, and then she kind of sees things that other people can't see, and this person tried to take her memory away, but she was a bit like, I don't really understand what's happening. And then she learns about this whole like other world that no one's ever told her about, that most people don't know about unless you have this like magic. And I really enjoyed that it was a difference. There was like a mixture of real world and the magic world, and they're just sort of like coexisting, and you can only see the magic like, and the monsters and things like that if you've got the power to. Not everyone can see them. So yeah, once I sort of got into the story with reading, I got really invested in the characters. I wanted to know where it was going, like uncovering different parts of the world and trying to figure out what was going to happen. I'm excited to read the next one. I think I'll probably read that this month, but there is a second one. It's just a duology. It is quite a thick book though, but there is a lot going on and it's very small writing, so it is a long story. But yeah, I would give it 4.25. And then next up is a series that I read on my Kindle. I read the whole series. So it's the Natural series. So there was 4 books I think, and then a novella, so 5 books in total. And I really loved this series. So it's like a YA, kind of a YA. It's been described as a young adult Criminal Minds, and that, I think that really fits it perfectly. So it follows Cassie, who joins this like group of young people, and they're all what they call the Naturals. They've all got different specialities. So you've got Cassie, who is basically a profiler and sort of sees people differently to how a regular person would, a bit like the profilers in Criminal Minds. So this team of Naturals, I think there's 5 young people, and it was created by the FBI to try to solve cold cases that sort of see if they can pick up on clues or discover things that, you know, have been missed. And yeah, I think the books, because they're YA, they're very easy to read, very quick to get through, but that also could be just because I've read it on Kindle. But I definitely would say it's a 4-star series overall. I really enjoyed it. I got through, I think I basically read 1 book a day for like a week and got through the whole series, because it was just I feel like every book, like, it's one of those series where you get really invested in the characters and you want to know what's going to happen to them, how they develop. You want to see the character arc. You have like favorites and you don't like some of them, and then all of a sudden you really like those ones, and it just really, you get really invested in the characters. I do anyway. So yeah, I think it's a really good series. Definitely one I would recommend, and just like one that you can really like get your teeth into and just escape for a bit whilst you're reading it, you know. So yeah, that was the Natural series. And then I listened to the 7 Year Slip, which I don't have a book of, but this was one again that I really enjoyed. So this follows Clementine, who her auntie passes away and she ends up like staying in her flat for a bit, but one day she goes into a flat and there's a man there who she doesn't know, and it turns out her flat is like, her auntie's flat is like magical, and it takes her 7 years back in time, but only while she's inside the flat. So when she goes out of it, she's back in like 2023, but then when she goes in it, it's 7 years earlier, if that makes sense. And it's not every time. She has no control over it. Only sometimes she'll go in and it's 7 years in the past. Sometimes she'll go in and it'll be present day. But the man that's in there is the love interest, and they just get to know each other, but he doesn't know anything about this flat, why she only now and then turns up and why she's like not there all the time. He just doesn't know anything about the magic there. I thought the book was a really good concept. I feel like it's the same author that wrote Dead Romantics, and I absolutely love that as well. Ashley Houston, I think it is. And I just think the concepts are so cool, like something I've never seen before. And I definitely think it's going to be like an auto-buy author for me, because I've just really enjoyed those books so far. So yeah, I did listen to it on Audible, but I'd recommend it if you're looking for like an easy romance, a bit of a rom-com, but also with like a really good plot. It's not just about the romance. There's a few like twists and turns in there, and it does get emotional at some points. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was such a good read, or such a good listen, I should say. Again, I would give it 4 stars. But yeah, I definitely recommend. And like I say, I think Ashley Poston is gonna be an auto-buy author for me, because I just really love how her like imagination works. I just think it's really like I say, concepts that I've just never seen before. So yeah, that was the 7 Year Slip. And then next up we've got 2 witchy ones by Erin Sterling. So we've got the X-Hex and the Kiss Curse. So these are just very like easy to read, perfect for this time of year, just romances, like witchy vibes, very like Hocus Pocus-esque, I guess, because like the X-Hex is, she obviously is putting a hex on her ex and they're basically trying to figure out how to remove it it's kind of like a lovers to enemies to lovers, I guess. So and a second chance also. And it's just in like a small town that's just all about like witches and Halloween and that kind of vibe. It's just a really nice, easy read. And then you've got the Kiss Curse, who is the main leads in this one are the best friend of the girl in the Ex-Hex and the brother of the man in the Ex-Hex. So I'm assuming there's 3 brothers, so I'm thinking there's going to be a third one with the third brother in there. So they are complete standalones. You don't really need to have read the like Ex-Hex first to understand the Kiss Curse, but I do think they're good to read together because the characters make a cameo in this book. So yeah, I just think they're really nice. Like I say, this time of year, very cozy, easy to read, flow really well, witchy romances. I love both of these, and I think I'd give both of them 4 stars. I feel like this has just all been 4 stars so far, but yeah, I'd give both of them 4 stars because I just really enjoyed just escaping in that little small town for a bit with all the witches and magic, and yeah, just very cozy, feel good witchy romances. Okay, next up, I actually ended up listening to this one, but we've got The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams. This again is just a very easy, fluffy romance. They're like 2 best friends that love each other but haven't told each other that they love each other, and both think that the other one doesn't love them in that way. They think they just want to be friends. I'd give it a 3 stars just because there's nothing like the whole plot really is the fact that they're best friends but want to be lovers, and I just think friends to lovers it's not one of my favourite tropes. So yeah, I would give it 3 stars, but it's just like an easy, fluffy romance, a good palette cleanser, I would say, because this time of year people tend to read a lot of fantasies. So I think if you need a little break from fantasy, pick up something like this. There's not really much else to say to it, that's why it's a bit of a 3 star. Nothing wrong with it, it's just the 2 best friends that love each other but don't want to ruin the friendship. That's the vibe. So that's The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams. And then we have got Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. So this one, I think I gave it 4 stars originally, but I think I would probably give it 3.5 just because I really enjoyed the romance in it. So it follows Iris and Roman, who are rivals at a newspaper that they both work for. So it's kind of like follows their romance, but there's a lot of like politics involved. So it follows like a war between 2 gods. No one really knows the true like origins of this war, why it's really happening, but people are fighting in it, and obviously then people are dying in this war. People on both sides. The sort of fantasy aspects of it is that they both have typewriters, so they write letters to each other, but at first they don't know it's to each other, and they just magically appear to the other person because of these 2 typewriters. It's not because of those 2, it's the typewriters. It just happens to be that those 2 have them now, have access to them. So they end up going into figuring out why this war is happening, and it's just, I think that the sort of main thing that what made me carry on reading it is the romance and wanting to know what was going to happen between them, because it's very like enemies to lovers. Is he going to turn up? Are they actually going to get together? You know, you don't really know, although you do know because it's a romance, but you don't really know like when or if it's going to happen, how it's going to happen. I'll definitely read the next one for sure, but I just think because the main plot is this war that's going on and I'm just not interested in it, you know, I didn't care for the war. I just want more of those 2. So like I said, I'll definitely read the second one to see what actually happens and where it goes from there. It does end on a good note and it does make you want to read the next one, so I definitely will. I just think coming away from it, I'm a bit like, oh, I'm not actually interested in a lot of the plot, you know. So yeah, I would give it 3.5 stars, but I will definitely be reading the second one when that comes out. It might not be like a straight away when it comes out I'm excited for it, you know, but I'll definitely read it to see what happens. And then we've got another romance that I listened to called Rent to Be, and this again was just another palette cleanser, fluffy romance. It follows Isla and Cade. He is her brother's best friend, so it's like a bit of forbidden love, I guess. She needs to stay in her brother's flat whilst her brother's away because she's got thrown out of hers, but she doesn't want to tell anyone that she's got thrown out of a flat because she can't pay for it, because her family are all very like judgy people, and they've all done like things with their life, and she's, you know, hasn't necessarily done these things, so she just don't want to tell anyone that she can't afford her rent, basically. But yeah, there's not too much going on plot wise. I'd probably give it a 3 stars. It's not a bad book, there's just not much going on. The whole sort of plot is the romance, you know. So yeah, it's just a nice fluffy, not loads, not got to think about it a lot. You can escape for a few hours and read it and just follow their romance and to see what happens, even though it's one of those romances that you know what's going to happen really, but you still read it, you know. So yeah, that was Rent to Be. And then last but not least, we've got another series, and this was the Inheritance Games series. So I've actually done a video whilst I was reading these, so that will be out after the wrap up and my October TBR. This will be the first video out for the month. So I read the Inheritor Games, Hawthorne Legacy, Final Gambit, and also the newest one, the Brothers Hawthorne. So I really enjoyed this series. I'm not gonna like go too much into it now because like I said, I've done a whole video on it, but I definitely say I'd give it a 4.5 star series overall. I think the second one was my favourite, Hawthorne Legacy. Definitely, I really enjoyed that one, and then probably the first one is my second favourite, and then the other two, they round the story up well, but they're not as good, I think. But yeah, it just follows Avery, who gets an inheritance from this old man that she doesn't really know. She doesn't know anything about him, but he's got 4 grandsons and 2 daughters, and the whole family's just a bit like, why has this random girl got this inheritance and not us? Like, understandably so, a little bit annoyed about it, like why has she got all the inheritance and we haven't really been left with much. And it just kind of follows that, like, sort of finding out why she's got all this inheritance and who this old man was to her that she don't really know. Has she ever met him before? You know, it's just like discovering that. There's a lot of puzzles, a lot of mystery, a lot of like mind games involved, which I absolutely loved. It reminds me a little bit of like an escape room. It's that type of vibe, like having to figure out, you know, try and look at things from a different perspective to figure out how like it's going to get you out of the room, basically. They're not stuck in a room, but you know what I mean, that kind of vibe. And there's also like a little bit of romance in there. There's a little bit of a love triangle, but that's definitely a subplot to it, 100%. It doesn't take away from the main plot at all. So I really enjoyed that. I would definitely recommend reading this series. I just wish I had the nicer like American covers. I think they are. I think these are the UK covers, but the 3 of them were £15 from the works, so you can't really complain, can you? But yeah, that is the Inheritance Game, and that is all the books I read this month. So yeah, I've had a really good reading month. A lot of 4-star books, I've realised, and then a few just like nice little romance, 3-star romances to go in there. But yeah, I really enjoyed reading. I feel like I really got into it this month, you know, and just really like enjoyed it again, like reading whatever I fancied to read at that point. So yeah, that is the end of my September wrap up. I hope you enjoyed watching. If you have read any of these books, let me know, and let me know your thoughts or your opinions, what your ratings were if you have read any of them. But yeah, like I say, that is it from me. If you did enjoy the video and you'd like to subscribe, I would really appreciate that. But other than that, I will see you in a bit.